Welcome back to Shaboom. I'm Rick K. Jones, your host. This is one of the few podcasts out there that's all about baby boomers. And we're here to provide you with all sorts of tips and information relevant to my generation. I want to remind you that I have a new website. It's rickkjones.com. Let me say that again, rickkjones.com. It's full of content. It's got all of my previous podcasts, including From the Bridge, United Taste of America, and now 2 seasons of Shaboom, plus even more. Got some cooking segments called Cooking with the Captain. Got a bunch of stuff there. Check it out when you get a chance and let me know what you think. Today we're going to talk about something we all love, and that is summertime. I've got my summertime hat on today. Can you see me maybe on the Sand River, just paddling along? Or maybe competing in the Oxford-Cambridge boat race or something like that. Summer. Probably no generation loves summer more than ours. I mean, we absolutely fell in love with summer, and we took advantage of summer, and we did so many things. So much of our music is about summer fun in the sun. Now I probably had too much fun in the sun. That's why I got all this skin cancer these days. For our generation, we didn't put on sunscreen. We put on butter or baby oil or whatever we could to fry ourselves and turn our skins as dark brown as we could get it. And we're all kind of paying the price for some of that today. Got a great playlist today. Our song of the week is the classic Don Henley song, Boys of Summer. It is one of the great songs ever. Let me tell you my Don Henley story. So I had done a lot of work for Bank of America, and my client was a woman named Dr. Clark, who's my good friend. And during this era, Hugh McCall, who was the president of Bank of America, was buying lots of banks. Okay, he was buying banks and bought CNS Bank, bought Boatman's Bank, bought Barnett Bank, just bought banks. And ultimately, he bought Bank of America. But he changed his bank's name from Nations Bank to Bank of America because he thought it was a better brand name. And as part of the acquisition of Bank of America, he bought an investment firm called Montgomery Securities. They were based out of San Francisco. And to celebrate the acquisition of Montgomery Securities, we had a party out in California, and I got invited. When I got there, the theme of the party was Route 66. You started in Chicago, ended in L.A., and as you migrated through the hall, you had food stations. So you got food of Chicago, food of St. Louis, food of the Southwest. Ultimately, you had sushi in L.A. I mean, it was really, really cool. Well, I got my food and all that, and I saw a bandstand over here. I mean, literally a bandstand. And I thought, I'll just eat and have something to drink and just hang out by the bandstand. Had no idea who the artist was going to be. And I'm probably 3 feet from the bandstand, just nibbling away, having a drink. And then out walks the band, and it's Don Henley. And I'm like, I'm not moving. I'm staying right here for the entire set because I'm like, I can reach out and shake Don Henley's hand if I wanted to. That's my Don Henley story. It was really, really fun. Great thing. Other songs on the playlist today, Hot Fun in the Summertime by Sly and the Family Stone. The classic Gershwin song, Summertime. This one was the rock version done by the great Billy Stewart. Heat Wave from Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. Summer by War, and the Lovin' Spoonful with John Sebastian doing Summer in the City. Heat Wave, Martha Reeves. Martha Reeves came to work at Motown as a secretary. She said she was a singer, but they said, here, you're a secretary. In fact, she was the receptionist, then was the secretary. And one day, a female singer did not show up to do a track. And Martha raised her hands and said, I know that song, I can do that track. And she did. And that song became a big hit. And Martha Reeves became a big hit. Later, she was a city councilwoman in Detroit, the great Martha Reeves, Heat Wave, Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. My generation, we ran around barefoot all summer. We collected lightning bugs, which are, for you Yankees, or fireflies in a glass jar. We played kick the can. We dated at drive-in movies. We were the first generation to drink Slurpees from 7-Eleven. Our summer family vacations were a big deal. My mother was the youngest of three girls and very close-knit family, and so the three families would all get together every summer and go on vacation together. And we would alternate between beaches. We'd either go to Isle of Palm, South Carolina, which is now Wild Dunes. There actually was a campground there at one time. Or we would go to Hunting Island State Park down in Beaufort County, or we would go to Jekyll Island in Georgia. Those were the three beaches that we'd go to every year, and really had a great time. We would camp on the beach, usually spend 2 weeks there. The men would only get 1 week of vacation. So the men would come one weekend, set up everything, and then go home. And then they would come back after the first week and join us for the rest of the week. The men would play golf and fish and do a bunch of stuff. You knew that the daddies were coming because Mama would finally shave her legs, and they would have steaks instead of hamburgers or hot dogs. Here's some great quotes about summer. Henry James said, summer afternoons, to me, those have always been the two most beautiful words in the English language. The poet William Carlos Williams said, in summer, the song sings itself. Writer Kelly Elmore said, some of the best memories are made in flip-flops. Isn't that true? And finally, from an unknown source, summer, the time when parents realize how underpaid teachers actually are. Boy, is that too true. Summer simply was and remains very, very special. My special guest today knows a whole lot about summertime and summer fun. Beth Gendler is the CEO of the Convention and Visitors Bureau down in the Alabama beaches of Gulf Shores and Orange Beach. Right on the beach, one of the most beautiful beaches in the country. Let's welcome Beth to Shaboom. Beth, thanks for being with us on Shaboom today.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, I ask all my guests the same first question. Where were you reared, and who were some of the early influencers in your life?
I grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana. Um, Michigan, but really my memories are of Indianapolis, Indiana. However, I was home of two working parents, and it was long before after school enrichment programs or summer enrichment programs. So my sister and I spent most of our summers down in Miami with my mom's parents, my grandparents. And then my father's parents lived just north of there in Fort Lauderdale area. So I got to spend most of my summers growing up with my grandparents. So they had a big influence on my life. And they were all very hard workers, but they all knew how to have a lot of fun. And I was thinking about this morning. My mom's grandparents, the Sleighs, they always had a house full of people. They had a big old house, the big pool and big living room, and there were always people there. I think that was my intro to the hospitality world without me ever even knowing it.
And your introduction, obviously, to the beach,
Yes,
with both
exactly.
cases. Now,
Yeah.
had both sets of grandparents retired to Florida? Had they?
No.
No. Okay.
So my father's family was from New York, and my grandfather was a bus driver in New York City. That man drove until he was 91 years old and drove like a bus driver in South Florida. Like he was a crazy driver. But my grandfather, on my mom's side, he was administrator at Baptist Hospital the whole time I was growing up. And so they'd moved from Ohio. He worked at Goodyear for a long time. So no, they were working the whole time. And my grandmother on my mom's side really never worked. Worked at a bookstore, kind of ran the house and that kind of thing. So,
It
yeah.
was interesting how many of their generation, they all were trying to get to Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, one way or the
South Florida,
other.
the East Coast, right? Yes.
Exactly, it was that kinda thing. Well, you went to Notre Dame. What made you choose to go to Notre Dame?
So I didn't go to Notre Dame. I'm a Notre Dame fan because I
Okay.
lived in South Bend, Indiana for a very long time. I went to IU in
Right.
South Bend. But when you live in South Bend, Indiana, there's not a lot to do in the wintertime except Notre Dame basketball and things like that. So yes, I'm a huge Notre Dame fan. I'm probably the only one. No, I know that's not true now. Living at the beach, I might have been the only one, but I think there are three of us now here that I know of.
That are big domers
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
and love Notre Dame. Well, so you go to school in South Bend. What was your first job out of college?
So it's funny, I was a backwards person. I graduated high school when I was 16 years old, a year early. I went right to work. I worked in retail and then I got into hospitality. And then later, while I was working, I went to school.
Okay.
So yeah, I was that backwards kid that wanted to get out and get all grown up and, of course, I regret that now. Boy, I could have taken a break, but, uh, I'm closer to retirement now, so the break's coming, but, yeah, so, went into retail, started working at a hotel in South Bend, and that really started this industry. So, I left the industry for a little bit, worked at a mental health hospital, where I was a community liaison and worked with the welfare department and doctors and things when they had people who were in real distress and needed to be hospitalized. So I was that kind of community liaison. But then I moved down to the beach and got back into hospitality. So,
Retail in that era, pre-Amazon, pre-everything, people had to come to a store and you had to educate and entertain and serve people all at the same time.
yes, you have no idea how many ties I tied for students that were Notre Dame students that didn't know how to tie a tie, or they just wanted some cute young girl to tie a tie for them, and put it over their head and show them how to, pull it up and take it down and take this home and don't untie it until you need to use it again. So,
I'll tell you a funny story about that. We were at the CMA Awards, Country Music Awards in Nashville one year, and I'm staying at the Omni, and I can tie a black tie, but I just couldn't get it. I'm just struggling with it. So I go downstairs to the lobby. I'm in my tuxedo with the tie, untied tie. And I go to the general manager who I knew and I said, Todd, do you have anybody here that can help tie this tie? Now I'm in the lobby
right, of
and
course.
suddenly this man comes to tie my tie. Well, all these people in the lobby think I must be somebody famous. And so, and so suddenly I turn around and there are like 40 people gathered around saying, who is this guy getting his black tie tied? Like he's on his, it was hilarious. It was kind of embarrassing, but it was pretty
Well,
funny too at
they
the
were
same time.
maybe a little disappointed, but if they'd known you, they wouldn't have been disappointed at all. They would have
Well, now
known you
you're
you
you're
were an
very
entertainer and
yeah,
well worth their attention.
yeah. It's interesting you talk about retail. There was a woman I grew up in Atlanta, and there was a department store called Rich's. Richard Rich and his family had started this department store. So many of the great department stores in America were Jewish families that had developed this, and Richard Rich built a great business there in Atlanta. And there was a woman in the men's clothing department named Jane Baumgardner. I'll never forget. And she kept all of her customers' information in a little index card file.
Mhm.
And so when I would come in, she would say, Rick, and she could look back and know the last time you were here, you bought 2 pairs of pants and a tie. But she sold probably more suits than anybody in Atlanta
Mhm.
just because of her hospitality and her understanding of what you were looking for and really her graciousness. And really, graciousness is a big piece of hospitality, isn't it?
It
Um,
sure is. Yes, yes. I'm always amazed at the women that work in our welcome centers. We've had some men too, but that just people come in and they're answering the same questions over and over and over and over again all day long. And yet it's a joy to them to be able to do that to people that walk into our welcome centers, new people, new visitors, visitors who've been here and just want to know what's new. And it's just over and graciousness. That's a great way to put that. Yes.
Yeah, and unfortunately, in a lot of ways in society, it's gone out of favor, which is a shame. We've kinda lost our sense of graciousness and our ability, and graciousness comes from that word grace to begin with. We've lost a little bit of our grace from that standpoint. What got you to the beach? What got you to Gulf Shores Orange Beach?
So it was interesting. Very personal story. I was going through a divorce to a big attorney in South Bend, and I'm like, "Ooh, this town's probably a little small for that." My sister lived down here just across the bridge in Perdido Key, Florida. My aunt and uncle lived here. Their kids lived here. My grandmother lived here when she was alive, my mom's mom. And my sister and her husband lived on a sailboat, and I vacationed down there, and I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to move to the beach. And I moved down here. This was 24 years ago this July. Last month would have been 24 years that I did that vacation. I moved down here without a job. I had been in contact with um who the person who was, and you may have met him, Mike Foster. I don't know if you knew Mike. Uh the time is hard for me to tell who was where here at this organization because I've been here for 24 years. But he and I had made contact before I moved down here because my sister saw an ad in the paper for their director of sales position at that time, Alabama Gulf Coast Convention Visitors Bureau. We've shortened that up. We're now Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism. But, back in the day, 24 years ago, when people put ads in the paper for jobs. So she saw it and I said, well, I'm going to apply for that, but I'm going to move down here anyway. And a couple of months later, it all worked out and I started this job. Well, not this job, but here with this organization. So,
No, but it's interesting that over the 24 years, you got to do more things and ended up getting the top job there, but it was because of the job that you did along the way, and I try to tell a lot of young people, make Coach Wooden said it best. He said, "Make every day your masterpiece." I love that line,
yeah.
but I tell young people, don't worry about your next job. Just the job you have right now, do the best job that you can. Make that the job, and if you do that, good things will happen. People will notice.
You I just gave that same advice to all 3 of my VPs because the last board retreat we had, we were talking about board succession and my succession. I'm not gonna retire anytime soon, but 4 years from now, in the lifespan of my career here, right? 24 years with the same organization. That's a lot of just knowledge in your brain that our board doesn't wanna lose. So we started talking about that and they said you should be developing people within your organization, which of course we already talked about. But that I didn't realize that, but every meeting I had with my VPs following that, they felt this immense stress to like they were competing against one another for my job that isn't open yet that but what I told them was, you know how I got here? Doing the best I could do every single day at my job is how I got here. So I'm just going to give you all that same advice. You do the best every single day at your job, and we will see what happens. But regardless, good things are going to come out of that.
There's no question. Well, you're in a very competitive business. I mean, number one, the tourism business is incredibly competitive. Alabama's beaches, very narrow. I mean, you don't have miles and miles and miles of beach. You got a very narrow window. You're competing against Florida on one side. You're competing Mississippi on the other side. Um, in a competitive business like that, how do you try to differentiate what y'all do from other destination locations?
And that's key, right? That's key. It's what's different about this beach. And we talk about that to our agency of record all the time. But no, that could be anywhere. We need to make sure people understand when they see this ad or marketing piece from our organization that they understand it's Alabama's beaches. And so that's really important to us. And well, there's lots of things. We do have 32 miles of beaches. They're beautiful. The white sand that squeaks under your toes, but that's all along the panhandle, to your point. But what I find interesting about, and if someone asks me that question, I say, you're not going to go down our street and see a bunch of chain restaurants. You're going to see a lot of condominium buildings that are managed and owned by individual owners and families that have been here since the beginning. The Bretts, the Robinsons, the Kaisers. I mean, these the beach ball properties that are owned by Ginger and Hunter, that if I need to call somebody, they're in my phone, they're texting me, they're here. The restaurant owners, we've got a gentleman who owns 4 or 5, and Shaul, who owns 4 or 5. These are people that live here, their families live here, they raise their children here, and this destination means everything to them. They're not a lot of big corporations, big companies that are here. Even the hotels, right? They're managed by people that live here. They may be part of a Marriott or Hilton, but they are managed by people that live here. So I think that makes us really unique. And those are things that we try to tell everyone. You're going to get on a fishing charter boat by somebody's family who's been here in the county forever and ever, right? So that's important. I think that makes us very different. We also have a 6,100 acre state park that has 28 miles or more, because they keep boardwalking more of it, that people can enjoy, that will never have anything in it. It will never be destroyed. There's a little tiny restaurant, and there's some campsites, and there's a hotel that sits on the beach, but other than it's just nature. So I think that that's also what makes us unique. You don't have to spend your whole time on the beach. You can do a million things, or you can do nothing at all. Just we're really, really unique like that. Yeah, I drive past the Floribama, and that's that honky tonk bar on the beach right at the line of Alabama and Florida. And sometimes I'll be listening to the No Shoes Radio, and Kenny Chesney singing about the Floribama as I'm going by it. He and the owner are really good friends. I just it's just a place people want to be.
Well, and it is a place of multi-generations. You mentioned that. I mean, and and it's a place people come back to lots of time. This Shaboom is about baby boomers and for baby boomers. Baby boomers are a big audience for you. They are bringing their grandchildren in record numbers these days, but they also are great for shoulder periods, aren't they? I mean, they come to the beach when everybody else is in school and come down there in the wintertime and spend a lot of time. Talk about how important baby boomers are to what y'all do.
Hugely important, for lots of reasons. To your point, this is a multi-generational business owner destination, but it's also a multi-generational visitor destination. So those boomers came when their parents brought them, and just so on and so on. But so they invite their families, plan trips down here. So that's hugely important. But they're also our guests in the wintertime. We are now running 65 to 70% occupied in February.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's all because of boomers, early retirees, people have been here for the last 20 or 30 years in their retirement. They stay, and they are actually a big part of our community. Not just that they're staying and spending and doing things. Those are all important parts of our economy, because which also makes us unique. Tourism is our industry here. There is no other industry. It is an industry that supports over 60,000 jobs and over $2.5 billion in salaries and wages. That is our industry. So we know how important all of our visitors are, but they're part of our community, right? They attend seminars, and they have their Michigan groups and their Wisconsin groups, and they're participating in things, and they're volunteering while they're here, and they're just a part of our ecosystem in the wintertime. Hugely important to us.
Talk about employment. At the beach, you got to have people that work in the hospitality industry, and some of it is seasonal. And so you have to it's an ebb and flow type thing that you're trying to get the right balance of how many people do I have in my restaurant or how many people do I have in my attraction or how many people do I have working on my fishing boats and that kind of thing. How do you balance that? How do you help your constituents understand the labor issues that are out there?
Yeah. So it is a challenge, and this is obviously June, so everybody's ramped up, right? The great thing about it is we've spent a lot of years, 24 of them I've spent trying to help stabilize our occupancy, which is how many people are here, how many rooms are rented, how many condos are rented, how many beach houses are rented. When I first started, it was a huge bell curve. Yeah, I'm trying to get in the camera here. June and July, and then all the way down. But now it's very leveled out. People, there's one of our challenges. People say, we don't have a non-season anymore. We don't have a time where, we aren't busy. That's not true. But it just feels like that a lot because it has evened out, it's stabilized much more, which is good for the economy. It's good for the full-time people. It means business owners can keep their full-time staff and ramp up with seasonal staff, people who are coming in from other countries, J1s and H2Bs, so they can work here in the summer and be able to take back that income to their families in other countries, right? That's huge. Also, kids are out of school. People are doing internships for marine biology and tourism and sports and all of these degrees. So they're able to come here and work and do those kinds of jobs that fulfill those needs. But we have this baseline of full-time employees. You can go to a restaurant here and you'll see the same servers in January that you see in July. And that's really good news for everybody that's here.
Yeah. And that was by design, y'all looked and said, this peaks and valleys is just not good for the economy at all. It's not good for people. If you knew that you were going to be out of work for 4 or 5 months a year, then you got to go to a ski resort and work and come back, or
Right.
do some of those kinds of things. And having stability, I think, is probably the thing. What issues? What are some of the biggest issues you're facing right now as you look to continue to grow and maintain what you're doing?
Yeah, so I don't wanna pretend that there is not a staffing issue because there definitely is. So that will always remain an issue because a lot of other destinations also have to ramp up, right? So we have to figure that out, but we are slowly figuring that out. And that stabilizing of our, occupancy helps with that. Still one issue, though, and we try to help as much as we can with that. Um, we have had enormous growth since COVID. Residential growth and visitor growth, as well as inventory growth. Lots of new condo buildings going up. Margaritaville is building across from the wharf across the intercoastal. It'll have 400 rooms. We just opened a new Embassy Suites. We just opened a new Spring Hill Suites, several new condo buildings. So what that means for my organization is, whoo, we got to keep demand high, right? We got to keep filling those rooms. We just also got a year ago, last May, we got commercial service through Allegiant Airlines. We started with 5 routes. We have 13 routes now, direct
Wow.
nonstop flights. So we were having 13 flights a week. Now we've got 30 flights a week. So we're expanding our airport that only opened last year. So, there's a lot of growth and people tend to move to beautiful areas like this and want to pull up the drawbridge. And then they are the people that don't appreciate visitors and our visitor economy. And I mean appreciate by us by, yeah, they don't like the traffic. They maybe haven't yet learned to figure out how to move around, and we residents learned that, right? You don't go places at certain times. You don't go to the grocery store on Saturday mornings when everybody's just arrived. So, you just navigate that, but they haven't learned that yet. They also don't have an understanding of what tourism pays for here. And that's a big educational process. To understand that all of these jobs are supported by the visitor economy. We have two towns. Orange Beach is one. It was at about 3,000 residents when I moved here. Before COVID, about 5, now 8,000 residents. Gulf Shores is up to 15,000 residents. But add those two together, and those two, what's that? Less than 25,000 people, right? There's 200 restaurants here. Those are driven by the visitor demand, but things that we get to enjoy all year long, even if it's not June and July, right? And there are some hidden little gems that just, residents go to. We have two school systems that have pulled away from the county and are city school systems in a town of 8,000 and a town of 15,000. And those are paid for by the visitor economy. Nobody's property taxes have gone up. We have each of our cities have ambulances that belong to the cities for the residents. We have a freestanding emergency department in Gulf Shores that wouldn't be built in a town under the size of 100,000 people. So these are all things that the visitor economy provides, but there are some trade-offs. Obviously, there are some trade-offs. And we try to keep not just the quality of life strong for everybody, but the quality of our beaches and the quality of what's offered here and make it easy. And our cities and our state are doing a great job of building infrastructure. We just opened a brand new bridge. There are 3 ways to get on and off this island now. So all very important things. But that will all, I don't know if it'll always be a challenge. It'd be great if I could say, oh, that'd be great if we didn't always have that kind of residents versus visitors
Dynamic
challenge.
tension, we call it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but it, it it is what it is. It's not going away. It is what makes all of this stuff tick. So what I try to say is these are things we get to enjoy because of the demand that tourism creates for these things.
You know, shameless plug, it's really a beautiful beach. It you
Yes,
have tremendous restaurants. I love the fact that you wanna stay busy, you can stay busy. You wanna sit by the pool or by the beach and read a book for 2 weeks, you can do that and nobody will bother you.
that's
You
right.
also have a lot of really cool events
Hmm.
every year, concerts, Hangout Music Festival, National Shrimp Festival, your beach volleyball, NCAA beach volleyball. I mean, that's a balance too. I
That's
mean, you
right.
can't you gotta make sure you don't have too many, but you have to have enough to because a lot of those will bring a new audience to town that then gets here and says, "We need to come back here."
That's
This
right.
yeah. Let's talk about a little bit about how you balance that.
Yeah. So give them a reason to come when it isn't summer, when people are coming, right? And by the way, we have 22,000 units here. People just aren't going to magically appear into those condominiums, right? And stay. So there still has to be a really good effort to do that. But it's like Jelly Roll was just at the Wharf last night for a concert. There Train and I don't know who else, I mean, just everybody you can think of is coming through the wharf for a concert. We have a 10,000 seat amphitheater. I mean, that's amazing, right?
Yeah, it is.
Uh,
For a
so
town with that few people.
right?
Yeah.
There aren't 10,000 people that live in Orange Beach where the wharf
Right,
is,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So, but we also have right now a perfect game baseball going on. So, got thousands of kids here with their families playing ball. And we'll have that all summer long. And then USSSA softball will be here. And those are the balances, right? But there are also reasons for people to come. You mentioned it, National Shrimp Festival happens the second weekend in October. And thanks for your help with all of that. But that gives people a reason to come, and sometimes it falls on a big fall break. That's become a big thing too. So that's changed the makeup, right? We've got summer kind of ebbs and early part of August because kids are going back to school so incredibly early in the summertime now. I mean, when I was a kid, it was you were out after Memorial Day and you didn't go back till Labor Day. And then your parents had, that's why I spent my summers in South Florida, because what were we going to do with those kids for 3 months? But now kids go back so early, so we got a little bit of a lull, and a little bit of breathing room. Then it's Labor Day, and then it's fall break a couple of weeks after that. And then it's Thanksgiving and then Christmas, and there you go. The year is, but we try to keep busy with events. Shrimp Festival is one of those. Hangout Music Fest is in May, kind of that in between uh, spring breaks and Easter and Memorial Day, and lots of sporting events that go, youth sporting events. We host NAIA in the fall. We host their women's national soccer championship. We hosted the men's for years, so women are back here, which is great because again, that's a whole week in November, early December, late November, where our businesses are busy and it keeps those full-time people employed. So we're trying to build those events, but they have to be meaningful. Oh, we have a huge Parrot Head event here. It's been here for a couple of years. It was down in Key West, and a few years ago they came here, thanks to the folks at the Hangouts, you know, got them to come here and we helped them with that. And they're at Lucy Buffett's restaurant and Lulu's, and they're all over the place. There's 6,000 of them that come in an off-season time period, all adults having fun and celebrating Jimmy Buffett and the lifestyle he created. So, yeah, there's just all kinds of things going on.
Yeah. And you can't operate, in a vacuum of other issues. I always see three issues that, well, tourism places have to pay attention to. One is infrastructure. You're not building a lot more roads, but you got to constantly be saying, what do we got to do to make the roads that we have work more efficiently for us? And
That's
that, because
right.
if you come and you spend your whole vacation in traffic all the time, that's not a great experience. You got to do
No.
that. Secondly, you got a lot of young people, and in many cases, maybe single parents, childcare becomes such a incredible, issue.
Yeah.
If I'm a bartender and I got a 2-year-old, who's taking care of my child in the middle of the day? And then for boomers, it's healthcare.
Yeah.
It's, do you have access to hospitals and top end healthcare? I mean, you hate to say it, but you're at the beach for the vacation, but something bad can happen at a certain age. And so you've got to be involved literally while you're the tourism bureau, you can't just come over here and say, I'm working over here in this one little vertical. You got to be engaged with everything, right?
Yeah. It was Sunday, Memorial Day weekend. One of my board members called and said, all the urgent cares are closed. Um, why is that? So the next Thursday, I sat across from the hospital CEO. She and I are very good friends and serve on several boards together. And I said, Margaret, why are all the urgent cares closed? And she said, no, one of them is open, Gulf Shores. So I get a text from one of her staff the other day, and I make sure that our team knows that this is the urgent care that's open 24/7, 7 days a week, doesn't matter what holiday it is. So, yes, we absolutely have to be involved in that. We're always involved in staffing issues, with childcare issues. We have a saying, oh, well, the kids have a saying around here, you better get on the list to get into a daycare um, before you get pregnant. Because it's amazing to me we don't have daycares that are open past 5:30 or on the weekends. And I don't know how we solve that issue, but it's an issue we talk to our elected officials all the time. We got to figure that out. Head Start gets money, but they can't build buildings with it. They can run programs with it. I mean, there's so many gaps there and so many things. So we definitely, along with the chambers and other leadership, try to work on all of those issues all of the time. And then compliance by OTAs with things. And it's just, yeah, it's amazing to me all the things that I might have to address in one day's time, and how our team helps communicate that. And God forbid there's, any other kind of emergency, how we'll work with EMA and the cities. And so, yes, we are a bigger part of just the fun part, which is inviting people here to have a great time, there are other things that we have to do as an
Yeah,
organization.
we always say it's the whole idea is never let them see you sweat,
That's
because
right.
they're here to have a good time. They don't need to know all these things that we've done behind the scenes to make this happen, this experience happen, and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I'm here for the first time. I have a condominium. I'm not sure how to get there. I'm not sure how to get my key to get there. How do I do that? Then, how do I plan my week? I mean, it's very complicated.
Yes.
But and I call it, it's not the bear in the woods in your business, it's the mosquitoes. It's the million little things. If it was one bear in the woods, I'll take care of the bear, but it's
Right.
not. It's all the mosquitoes that are
I
creating
got
all the
that. You can give me a
issues.
bear any day. I would do that.
Exactly,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
I tell them we're like ducks. We look very elegant on the surface, but we are paddling like crazy under that water. So yeah,
Yeah, it's a
it's a
good
lot.
thing.
It's a good
Well,
thing though. The ultimate, what I try to remind our team is that ultimately we are helping people make memories, right? Having fun. And this is their vacation. Think of your vacation and all the money you save and all the planning that goes into it. That's what these, by the way, 7.1 million people that came here to our beaches last year are doing. And we have to help them do that. And we always have to have that in mind. And of course, because of that, then the quality of life is enhanced here for our residents, and people experience great amenities because of it. But it's really about helping those people, because if we do that and everybody does it well in that whole cycle of their visit, they're going to come back and they're going to have more memories here.
no question. Well, what I always ask all my guests the same last question: what's professionally still on your bucket list, and what's personally on your bucket list?
So professionally, that's an easy one. Our organization bought 111 acres 4 years ago to build a sports tourism complex. We were at the point of planning and zoning with that, and the city of Gulf Shores put a moratorium on new builds while they do a comprehensive land use study. So before I retire, I'd like to see that built, but at least the ground broken on that facility. That will be immensely helpful, not only to sports tourism here in our area, but the residential growth has gotten so much that rec ball kids are out there playing at 8, 9 o'clock at night because they don't have
They
fields.
don't have
So
enough
when
fields.
we don't have sports tourism programming, they can use that. New high school right across the street from that. If if their baseball team could use our championship field, then it saves the city money to build so lots of great things will happen from that. That is on my professional bucket list. My goals every year, I have to tell my executive committee every year, well, we didn't get that done this year. We're ducks under the water on that too. Personally, my husband retired a couple of years ago, and my goal is to retire at the end of 29. So that gives me some time to plan what that's going to look like and what I'll be doing. It won't be staying home every day, because I think I might lose my mind. But I really want to be in charge of my time and do some meaningful things. So we have to see what that looks like. And make sure, goes back to the professional, make sure when I leave that the next person in my position can just move right into the position like I was able to, because I'm only our second CEO since we were organized by an act of legislation in 1993. And I want to leave some continuity, and I want the industry partners, city officials, our board of directors to feel really confident in my replacement.
That's a great answer. And for the listeners out there, I have spent a lot of time in the Alabama Gulf Beaches. It is a fabulous place. If you haven't been to Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, you need to put it on your bucket list. The problem is once you get there, you'll continue to come back because, again, it is a great experience with so many fun things to do. But it starts with, it may be, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful beaches in the world. It is
Hmm.
just, I mean, certain things God makes that,
That's
that,
right.
that you try to take advantage of that. it is a spectacular piece of real estate on that beach, again, with lots of things to do. Beth, I can't thank you enough today. You've been a great friend for a long, long time. I'm so proud of what you've done down there and what you continue to do down there. And thanks for being part of Shaboom today.
Thanks, Rick. It was great.
Well, it's now time to take a trip down memory lane. It is the summer of 1975. I'm working at Camp Ridgecrest for Boys up in the mountains of North Carolina, in Black Mountain, North Carolina, Ridgecrest area. And this movie comes out, and it's the first of what we would consider to be the summer blockbusters. It's Jaws. Remember Jaws? Well, I took a girl named Pam Craig from Hickory, North Carolina to see Jaws, and there was a scene when the shark came out of the water, and she buried her fingernails in the side of my arm, and I had scars for years from that. Jaws was a Peter Benchley novel. It changed everybody's opinion about the ocean. Okay, and I know this. I no longer swim at night in the ocean. Before that, I swam at night all the time. Didn't even think about it. After Jaws, you're not getting me in the water in the dark. Jaws, such a phenomenon, summer 75, on a trip down memory lane. It's now time for the boom. I'm going to gripe a little bit about summer today, about how we've shortened summer. When I was a kid, we got out right at Memorial Day, and we didn't go back till after Labor Day, the Tuesday after Labor Day. So you had all of June, all of July, and all of August. Well, they changed that. And we've lost August. And let me tell you who suffers for that: the beach resorts, because they lose a whole month. And in many cases, it's because not only do they lose the people that are coming there, in some cases, there's some states in the north that go back to school late in September or early September, and they come down. But all of the teenagers that work at the beach have to go back to school. And so it's like the beach shuts down in August. August used to be the best beach month ever. And for us, it was always our vacation month because we would play Little League Baseball in June and July. And then when baseball ended in July, then we could think about a summer vacation leading into the Labor Day weekend. It's a shame. We should bring August back. We should bring summer and make it 3 months. And that's the boom for today. Well, it's time to get back on the road with Rick. You know, so many beach trip memories. When we would come to Charleston when I was a kid, and for those that have been to Charleston recently or live in Charleston, you know, we have this wonderful Ravenel Bridge. Well, when I was a kid, we had a one-lane bridge, basically, or two-lane bridge, one direction each way. They claimed that when they tore that bridge finally down, it was, you know, the pylons were gone. They didn't realize why it had fallen into the water. In fact, they said that bridge was haunted for years. But you would cross the bridge, and you would go out towards Isle of Palms. And there was a wonderful restaurant in Mount Pleasant called the Trawler. The Trawler was the go-to restaurant in the Low Country. It's now been reconfigured as a different restaurant there at Shem Creek, but I remember the Trawler very fondly. But my favorite beach restaurant is here in Charleston, and it's Bowen's Island. It's on James Island out near Folly Beach. You drive down a dirt road, and you come to the end of the road, and there's this roadhouse, 3-story roadhouse, right on an estuary. There's oyster shells everywhere because they're famous for their roasted oysters. They have great fried seafood. You can get a Low Country boil. You can get boiled peanuts, crab dip, fried green tomatoes. It's a wonderful restaurant. Again, thousands of oyster shells outside. Great place to come. You come to Charleston, go to Bowen's Island, enjoy all the great seafood on the road with Rick. Well, it's time for the last word. I'm 72 years old. I don't know how many more summers I have left, but I promise you that I'm going to celebrate all that I have with trips, friends, family, and great food. In fact, I think I'll make myself a goombay smash tonight and toast all the past summers and the future summers. As Mark Twain once said, warm summer sun, shine kindly here. Hopefully with a whole lot of sunscreen. We'll see you back here again next week.